Hello guys, my name is Anna and I'm a Ukrainian, and I have decided I will vlog daily from my country Ukraine since the start of this awful war with Russia. And in my daily videos I try to update you on the important real-life situations in my country Ukraine, and of course I'm always glad to answer your questions and to clarify some facts from our history, our culture, our background, or whatever interests you. And today my vlog will be more of a question than an answer, because there is one issue that bothers me a lot and I constantly think about it, and I consider this problem, this issue, one of the core problems in Ukrainian-Russian relations. Many of you watch Russian vloggers. Many of you tell me there are lots of good people who speak about the support to Ukraine, who can be prosecuted, who flee Russia. Definitely a contrast to the majority who don't like to talk about that and play with sanctions in their headlines to attract more viewers. But you ask me questions about good Russians, about the future of Ukrainian-Russian relations after we win, because of course 140 million people will not disappear and they will stay our neighbor for a pretty long period of time, until they actually fall into more beautiful and independent states, which I see as the best solution for this war. But in general, we do have 140 million people who greatly respect Vladimir Putin. I do understand there are opposition leaders, there are people who don't like everything what is going on, but somehow in Russia there is a tradition of respect to their totalitarian leaders. And my question, and actually the thing that fascinates me, terrifies me, and does all that stuff in my head, is this love for political leaders, not just like fanatical love of the whole country. Actually, I started to think more about that after my vlog on Boris Johnson. Many of you don't like him, many of you explained me the reasons, and there were lots of funny things that made me laugh, especially his love life, something I did not follow at all. But someone told me that this is a bright example of how democracy works. That if he's not supported, he must resign, he must leave the office, and maybe this will be very educational for the Russians. Well, I'm not that optimistic living close to Russia, and I don't think it will teach them anything, or it can teach them just like to become more totalitarian, to suppress people more, not to repeat problems like that. But my question is here that it is truly so that in the majority of democratic states, when you watch the news, when you read the news, when you listen to people talking everywhere, you will see them saying bad things about politicians. Sometimes the politicians aren't that bad as people say about them. In majority of cases, when we speak of a politician, we speak of his sins, debts, behavior, lovers, whatever. And I think perhaps it's more or less normal, because by criticizing them, we actually motivate them or something else. But this is very natural in the majority of democratic countries. And contrary, in totalitarian countries, you have this like worships of these leaders. And when you observe news from the North Korea, for example, you can see millions of people crying when something happens to the elbow of their leader. Something similar was when Stalin died. There are photos of like many kilometer queues of people who were really crying for the death of a person who actually killed millions of their relatives. And when I look at these faces, when I read some records, I realize that in the majority of cases, these emotions, these feelings are real. And this glorification, worship of leaders is something definitely evil, and I don't know how come it forms in the country. Perhaps by this totalitarian control and suppression, and it often very quickly repeats itself in the other structures, like at the universities, at the hospitals, at the plants, when the boss is always the smartest. We all know it's really that way, but it's totally okay to see that your boss is a nice person in one aspect and professional in something, and he may not be, or she may not be, super cool in something else. It is so wrong when like the boss is the best manager, is the best, I don't know, English speaker, the best cook, the best looking person, and also plays tennis the best. if I was a boss, I would feel very suspicious about the people who tell me I'm always the best. You know, I'm like, I like myself, I'm in a friendship with myself, you know, but I'm realistic about that. And I know that I'm not a good tennis player, and I cannot literally be the best among like 50 people of my company, for example. So my question is, what happens both to people that they start worshipping their leaders and they don't ask questions? And in Russia, when they are interviewed, very often they get these answers: they know better, I trust my president, I don't have questions, this is definitely the best leader, oh thank God for Putin. Thank devil, perhaps, if you can thank him, I don't know, we shouldn't. So all of these things, like people, I do know some are afraid, but no guys, the majority aren't afraid, and they think that way. They are really proud of their leader, and they think that their leader is definitely better than my president and all of your presidents, prime ministers, and even kings and queens. And they have one man like Tsar, president, criminal, oligarch, and the best hockey player, and the rider on a bear. And the macho man, that is, by the way, a very funny thing. Like when Boris Johnson spoke about toxic masculinity of Putin, I had this like feeling that Boris Johnson is not very good into the understanding of Putin, because with all that Botox in his face, he definitely lost machos. Maybe toxicity is left, yes, in his face, but in general, I definitely don't see anything masculine in Putin that is topless, riding a bear, or playing hockey. For me, it's like, oh, I don't want to share all of my thoughts here. I want to keep my channel clean. So, what happens to those people that don't see the flaws, that don't see how funny their leader is sitting at their stables too far away from everyone, isolated, changing his face every like a week or something, not communicating with people, not liked by anyone outside Russia or other totalitarian states? How come they don't see that? Well, perhaps even if he was ideal, he was their president for like 22 years, that's too much. You cannot like anyone for 22 years being your president. You will get sick with that person. And then what happens to those? It's not a question about Putin, because something really bad happened to him long ago. But what happens to other bosses, leaders who start to believe that they are unique, that they are so special? I don't know. When I get too many compliments, I know which are realistic and which are not. And I don't always like those people who give me compliments that are not realistic. And I feel like, why are you doing this? So what happens? When does it happen in the head of a leader? Political, economical, cultural, when he or she starts to believe that I'm the best, I'm the only one in charge. So definitely this wrong understanding of hierarchy, when your leader is not just a leader in the sphere you work in or in politics temporarily, but when a person believes that a firm, a country, a continent belongs to him or to her. In my life, I was working once for 5 years on a more or less like top position at the university, and I had my room and I had a secretary, and I never felt like it's my room. I liked it, I used it actively, but I did not like change it to my likings or something else, because it was totally normal and understandable that it is temporarily. And it is always like that in normal democratic countries. The power that you get, even if you are the best, is temporary, because you get used to that. And in the democratic world, the majority of leaders, even Churchill, is not that much loved, especially during their lifetime. Typically, good politicians are liked after they die, or even more when they are assassinated. Please forgive me, but that's the truth, like about Kennedy, for example, and others. When their life is interrupted by some tragic events, then definitely a person becomes a superstar of a particular culture. But one of the reasons, one of the very serious symptoms that must be worked on in Russian society is definitely their attitudes to leaders, that they take for granted everything that their pseudo-leaders say. that they like the combination of the star president bear rider style, that they don't ask questions like, I don't like, why are you saying that? They don't doubt anything. And this is very different from the people who live in democratic countries, who like telling jokes about their politicians, who judge them more strictly than themselves. And once again, this is healthier for the society. So maybe you have some variants. What happens? Why does it happen? Is there one mechanism or many of them? Because most of your comments are smarter than my speeches, and definitely I like to think about that. Also today I'm very happy to introduce you the second video from our project of interviews about the people who describe their experience during this war. And we were lucky enough to invite a truly famous Ukrainian man, Ivan Lenyo, who is a leader of a popular Ukrainian band Cossack System. I will also leave a link to his channel, and there he spoke about his experience, how he met this war in Kyiv, how he became a member of the patrol police, how he met Hlivnyuk, who is very famous for Червона Калина song, and also his volunteering and concerts. And the subtitles are present in this interview, so I hope it will be interesting to you. I will leave a link both to this project interview with our next hero and a link to his YouTube channel so that you can listen to some songs and maybe you will like them. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for your subscriptions. They are really important for me as they help the channel grow and more people learn about my beautiful country, Ukraine. And now as this war continues, it's extremely important for us to stay in touch with the world and to feel your support. And so many changes, worrisome changes, that we do need more Ukrainian voices on YouTube. And I'm really grateful when you advise my colleagues and when you subscribe to my channel. Thank you for buying me coffees. I drink a lot of them lately to work harder and to answer your questions. And of course, thank you for being with me and thank you for being with Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!